every amount of pain there.
Something big, like a Star Wars or a Marvel.
Wouldn't have been good, but would have been like, okay.
You are at the movies with Ace.
And Martin.
And we were at the movies seeing literally me in space. That's right. It was Project Hail Mary, starring everyone's boy, Ryan Gosling. The biggest movie of the year so far, safe to say.
Yeah, I know we've been a little bit between recordings. Our schedule's been chaotic as all be, but I feel like we rolled out the red carpet for this one. It kind of needed to happen, you know, besides, a few animated movies hanging over from last year. Box office has been pretty mild, and this is, like, starting the year off on a high note in terms of, you know, an original. It's based off the book, but movie getting released. We're going to be hearing about this movie for a while. I think this movie is going to be one of the milestones of the year, not only because of its box office performance, but its critical reception seems pretty high, too.
Yeah, we kind of left you guys pretty negative about the state of movies with Scream 7, so I'm glad March has kind of awakened the movies right now with this Project Hail Mary, because I was thinking about this movie after it. I think this is the perfect post-Oscars movie. Like, if you're a big movie person, you just got done binging, you know, these very dramatic, some of them very sad movies. And then you kind of have, this is the perfect, like, here's your start to the spring. Everything's like, you know, your seasonal depression's wrapping up. The summer's right around the corner. Let's just watch, you know, a nice movie.
Yeah, did you happen to read the book, or like were you familiar with Project Hail Mary before the movie?
I knew about it very little. I knew it was the same author as who wrote The Martian, and I've seen the movie The Martian, of course, and that was really my only connection. And then, of course, I learned what made me, you know, what really bought my ticket was Lord and Miller doing a live action, not only a live action movie, but a live action space movie. Because, you know me, I can't help but think, like, was there some solo stuff in here that they wanted to do in that movie, and unfortunately were not able to? So those elements is kind of what bought my ticket.
I think there definitely were some elements from what they were probably planning on doing with Solo and what was shot with Solo. If I can give this movie any praise on a technical level, the puppet work and the compositing were really, really good. The fact that a lot of this was done with practical sets and like screens and rear view projection instead of just a blue screen and a green screen, like most other movies would do. This movie has a very distinct look to it. It matches the tone of the movie.
It really looks like the Lego movie when you talk about how colorful it is and how vibrant. Two completely different movies, but it's a Lord and Miller movie. It's like how Spielberg has his style, J.J. Abrams has his style with the lens flare. Lord and Miller just bring that, like, I don't know, that vibrant oomph that a lot of directors don't bring to a movie like this.
Yeah, and it was cool to see them do something. I mean, it's not like a total farce. It is a comedy. It's a drama. It's a melodrama for the whole family. But it was refreshing to see them do something that had like stakes and like serious ramifications. Like it wasn't a beginning to end like farce. Like I like the 21 and 22 Jump Street movies, but those are just like a kind of studio comedy.
Yeah.
We take for granted, but like, yeah, I would kill for a 23 Jump Street. Is Jonah Hill busy? Because we know Channing Tatum's not.
When people were making fun of that Men in Black movie that was in the Sony email leak, I was down. Like, that would have worked, I think. That would have been cool. Rejuvenated an IP.
Especially if we got Josh Brolin to play a young Tommy Lee Jones again, somehow.
If they, just, like, fuck it, have them time travel in that could have been fun. I mean, I'm glad, we're past, like, the Solo stuff, and I know Lord and Miller, I believe they're attached to the Spider-Verse movies, right? So they're a part of that. But I'm glad we're kind of out of that shell, that kind of Disney Spider-Man shell for Lord and Miller. They tried their hand at IPs and they had their ups and downs, but this is where they thrive. I mean, with a project like this.
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, they have a near perfect track record. The only movie that didn't get finished, Disney pulled from them. Who knows what Solo would have done? Their fault. No, they just got removed from the project. They got fired from the project. And maybe it's because they weren't handling the IP the way that Disney, Kathleen Kennedy era Disney wanted that movie to be produced. But I have a hunch that movie was still probably pretty good.
Do you think that in this movie, when Ryan Gosling's ship first sees the alien ship, and there's that really fun back and forth between them? I bet that was a scene in Solo with the Falcon and like a Star Destroyer.
Maybe.
I guarantee that was one of the scenes where they were like, oh, "Is this a little too comedic?" Because it was great, and I would have loved to see it in a movie like Solo and that. But I don't want to harp on that too much. But you couldn't help but think about what if as well.
Right. Yeah. No. I think they're great directors. I like their contributions and their writing. I do think that they. This movie, not only is it, based off of another Andy Weir book in the way that The Martian is, but the screenplay is adapted by Drew Goddard, who also adapted that screenplay. And he's a longtime collaborator with Joss Whedon. And I feel like you can tell these movies are very quirky and quippy. And I think Lord and Miller, Phil and Chris do the same thing in a lot of their movies. My biggest problem with this film was just that the few human characters there are don't really talk like humans. They're
just pieces of a plot.
It feels comic book, even though it's not. And I mean, I didn't get that impression from the book when I read that a year or two ago. The book feels just a tinge more grounded, and I think that this is kind of the movie that people need right now. So I can't bash it too hard. This was heartwarming. Yeah. It was good. I just feel about the way where some people felt about Spielberg in like the late 80s, early 90s, where it's like, you're giving us too much schmaltz here. I feel that way with the quippiness. You're giving us too much.
Yeah, I think the standout of this really, I know this is weird to say about a man in his 40s, but this is really a big breakout role for Ryan Gosling in a way, because he is like 97% of this movie. For an actor to take on a role like this is no small feat. Very little actors have been able to pull that off. And this also shows in, a theory we both agree that an actor selling tickets is not dead. That Ryan Gosling sold this movie. Like, it's kind of incredible. We're back in this era where somebody could do that. And I think, Michael B. Jordan just won an Academy Award for Sinners, another guy that Sinners made a lot of money because of Michael B. Jordan as well. Like, I think we're back of people wanting, like, going to theaters for actors.
Yeah, I think the Ryan Gosling case is, like, very similar to other movies of this nature where it's pretty much one character. The Martian's a good example. I think that's a great vehicle for Matt Damon, especially where his career was at that time, where he was like, I don't really want to do franchise movies anymore. I'm not getting cast in like auteur-driven projects as much anymore, and trying to figure out what he's doing. And then, does the 1-2 punch of going back to Bourne and being in The Martian in the same calendar year. But also, like, you think of, like, Tom Hanks, he was at the height of his powers and he makes Castaway. This feels like Ryan Gosling isn't really having a breakout performance here, to me, more so than it feels like he's earned, like, his legendary movie star status with this film. And I think his performance really is like an amalgamation of a lot of great tones and characters that he's played before, kind of bundled into one.
For me, he is getting very close to that Cruise and Hanks tier where I will see a movie because he's in it.
Yeah, I mean, I think he maybe cashed that check a little soon. I didn't see Fall Guy. That looked like a weird follow-up for Barbie for me. I heard it was pretty good, but I think he's probably at that point decent now. Money. Yeah. He's been that way for me personally since, like, I don't know, Gangster Squad.
Yeah.
I think I've seen every movie he's done except Fall Guy. That one just looked a little, I don't know. Him and Emily Blunt, I don't know. That feels like they were going to cast The Rock and he was busy.
The Nice Guys really sold it for me, where I'm like, this guy's not afraid to be stupid. Like, there's a lot of Nice Guys isms in Project Hail Mary with his comedic screams, or his, like, when he first lost the gravity in the ship and he's, spinning around. A lot of, like, Buster Keaton-isms, a lot of physical comedy that I really haven't seen in a while. The only thing I can really compare it to is, like, a Jack Sparrow type character, like good Jack Sparrow, like before the sequels. That type of leading man acting has been kind of lost because of the MCU, and, everybody's a superhero the past 10 years. It was cool to just see a dude, somebody you could just laugh at and cheer on for a movie.
And I think it's telling that, I mean, Ryan Gosling never did a superhero movie. You know, the whole heyday of that has come and gone. He was focusing on a lot of, like, I think he's one of our greatest comedic actors. Even if his character isn't always outwardly funny, he's usually the butt of a joke. And, you know, I think he's great. What was he doing when everyone was making Marvel movies? He was in, like, you know, Best Picture nominated movies. Yeah. I'm sure he was on the short list for Captain America, but thank God.
Oh, yeah, he probably auditioned.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, he's had such a weird career because, yeah, you're right. He never did the superhero thing. He was just like, it's so hard to explain his career because I think he is a household name, but it really wasn't until Barbie and then this movie where you could definitively say, like, oh, people will go see this guy.
Well, I think it was smart too. I mean, he's been acting since he was a child. He had like a Disney contract like back in the early 90s. Yeah. But he's also like, he did like chick flicks first. You know, he kind of came up in the same way that people like McConaughey and Bradley Cooper have, and then shifted into like more serious kind of adult roles, but then also took like kind of out there swings. Like Drive is a pretty weird movie to take if you have the momentum that he has at that time, because he's done like 2 rom-coms. He did like
not
a
really
romance
an
movie in The
attractive
Notebook.
role, and Drive isn't really an attractive role for a guy that's trying to be a leading man breakout like star at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, he's got like 10 lines of dialogue in the whole movie and is like a hyper-violent criminal. Like, that's not really what people are looking for. But I think there's like different eras of his career, and I feel like this kind of feels like all of those little eras coming together. I didn't love the flashback scenes in this. I think they were way better in the book.
That was the big negative I had on the movie, was I didn't really understand his amnesia. And the flashbacks felt more just for the audience. I didn't really get the connection that he was gaining his memory until, you know, at the end, I guess. It just, that wasn't structured correctly. You know, that's a very big nitpick, because the flashbacks, you know, they're cute. They explain the plot well, but every time they happen, I'm like, all right, I want to get back to the ship. How's he gonna get out of this? I was way more into the survival story aspect of this movie.
Yeah, and I think that's where this movie thrives, is when it is just the one guy who's on an island type film. You know, this in this case, the island is a spaceship. I also like that this movie wasn't really cluttered. Like, I think it would have been nice to have a little bit more with the supporting cast, but you know, one of the problems I have with a film like Interstellar is that kind of feels like it's a one man on an island, but for half the movie, you know, you're stuck with McConaughey's crew, and the whole end of the story and the resolution involves a personal thing between him and his daughter, who we haven't seen them interact in over an hour and a half. You know, like, this movie doesn't feel like it's bogged down with too many characters or set pieces. It feels like it's moving in one continuous line with those flashback scenes that really kind of take away a little bit. Yeah, I don't know. This movie felt a little like long for what it was, but at the same time, like, I wasn't like, oh, well, we don't need to see this. Like, there wasn't really a ton of fat to cut.
No, it's one of those weird things. I think when it came to the structure, it was a little weird. And then my issues with it really went down. It really went up when we meet Rocky, and I wanted to see more of Grace and Rocky. And then every time we went to a flashback, I'm like, no, I want to see what Rocky and Grace are doing. Because I was going into this movie, I was a little nervous. Like, is this alien just gonna be Grogu? Is it just gonna be the Disney sidekick? Am I just gonna be annoyed? But I found myself really enjoying Rocky. Like, they didn't babyfy Rocky. He was an actual character. Like, it felt like something that would have been in like a Spielberg movie. There's a lot of comparisons to E.T. or Close Encounters, and I think they set up that relationship well between Rocky and Grace. It was very Spielberg-y in a good way, not a ripoff. Like, I didn't feel that.
No, to me it feels something almost more along the lines of like Star Trek or something like that, when there's like because like Rocky comes from his own planet and has his own struggle and his own like adventure as well. You know, their paths just kind of cross, which is where I think a lot of the enjoyment comes from, because it feels like almost like a road trip movie for a bit.
Literally 2 ships passing in the night.
And I thought Rocky was definitely the standout. It was like a lot of fun to see. Well, the puppet work alone was really cool, but it was fun to see like the interactions that they had and how their plots kind of come together. Because, like, in a way, Rocky's like the Wilson of this movie's Castaway, except Wilson became a sentient talking inanimate object,
Yeah.
which would have been a way more fun movie.
Yeah, I loved. There's almost a part of me that was like, I kind of wish we met Rocky a little earlier as well. He came at a right time though, where I'm like, if we went a little longer with this back and forth, I would have started to get a little annoyed at this movie. Yeah. So he came right when we needed it. Yep. And the design of his ship was really cool. I like that. We still don't quite understand like that he has to live in heat, I guess, or his atmosphere is different, and I like that we don't know. You don't have to explain everything either. And I don't need a billion sequels and spin-off series about it either. Please.
I don't think we're getting that. I don't think it matters how successful this is. I think, the next Andy Weir book will get turned into a movie, and it'll be oddly similar to this, just like this is oddly similar to The Martian. But I don't think we're going to get a direct sequel to Project Hail Mary. Please, Sony, don't do it. I know you want the money. This is a big win for Sony.
Yeah,
they haven't had
when they
like,
really
the first
needed it.
big movie of the year in a long time. And like not including animated ones, because I'm sure that the Lego movie that came out in February that probably did pretty good that year. That 12 years ago now. My God.
Yeah. Jeez, it was like the same year as Iron Man 3. God, I remember that summer. Do you think this says anything about future like movies? This is a very optimistic movie. Do you think we're heading into an era of optimistic blockbusters?
So
with this and Superman as well?
You brought up that this is like a good after Oscars movie, and I feel like last year there were a ton of movies that had like a very bleak and like we're cooked kind of vibe to them.
Because
whether it
Sinners
be
was the big
Begonia,
movie last year at this time.
Yeah, and Sinners didn't feel like that. Sinners was a lot more optimistic in ways.
I was about to say, especially the end credits scene where like, I guess we're friends now. Like,
yeah. But, you look at like, you had Eddington, you had Begonia, you even had like One Battle After Another, I think has a lot more cynical of an ending than I think some people are reading into it. Like, there's kind of like this knowledge of dude, humanity, specifically America, is super fucked right now, and this movie tonally feels like something ripped out of 24 in a lot of ways. I mean its optimism is contagious. Like, you would have to be a complete like, I don't know, monster to walk out of this movie and be like, oh fuck this movie sucked. Like, I don't know anyone who wouldn't like this movie. This movie is mass appeal, and it is optimistic, and it gives you hope for the future, I guess. I don't know. It felt a little, like, overly optimistic in the same way that I feel like the characters are a little overly quippy. But, I mean, it's escapism. And, leaving people with a positive message is usually better than whatever the fuck Eddington's ending was.
I think that's been an issue with the movie theater specifically, where, if you're going out to the movies, for a lot of people, you're probably in a good mood. You're outside. You're doing things. So to walk into, for like a movie like Eddington or something that's really hard, these days, that might be for more of a watch at home with some close people. You have a discussion afterwards. I think those days are gone where you go to a movie theater for something serious late at night and then you like go to the bar after and have a discussion. I don't know how many people are doing that anymore. I think when it comes to the movie theater experience, something like this, I think, is only going to get more and more popular. You're always going to have weirdos like us who would see, like, I don't know, like the Schindler's List at a 10 p.m. screening and then talk about it for 3 hours after. Like, we're down to talk about whatever's put in front of us on a screen. But a lot of people aren't wired that way, especially with a movie theater experience. Yeah,
there is something with like movie theaters being like a communal thing. I feel like most people don't like going to the movies by themselves. I did go see this by myself just because
I did see it by myself as well.
I think it was a good movie to see by myself, in all honesty.
I felt in the ship.
Yeah, exactly. I felt a lot more related to Ryland Grace. But I think there is something, especially as the economy gets worse, especially as movie theaters are, they're an expensive like hobby to have. Granted, there are subscription services now where you can get essentially a lot of money in savings, but
And a lot of theaters still do $5 Tuesdays. That's still big in some local towns as well.
yeah, I mean, there are like ways that it's affordable, but at the end of the day, it's not like a utility to go to the movies. You know,
Yeah.
it's not something that people will budget for or think about. So as we get to a harder financial time, I think one, the amount of content that people have the bandwidth for. I think one of the big reasons the MCU is in the state that it's in is because I think the percentage of fans that had gone to see almost every movie or enough to be able to figure out what was going on by the time they got to an Avengers has decreased, because in order to know everything that's going on into this new Avengers movie, you kind of have to have had watched like, I don't know, 200 hours of television and watched a bunch of movies that did not do well in the theaters. Like, that's a big ask for a big audience. And I'm sure that that's part of what they had to rewrite around. Like, was Moon Knight going to be in this movie? Because no one watched that damn show. You know, like...
Yeah, I think there's a lot of issues with a cultural zeitgeist now where people are accepting that they might have missed the party and they're not trying to catch up, and it's I think that's more more one-offs like Project Hail Mary might work, because it's like, oh, like I'm here right now. I don't have to see anything else. I could just go in and enjoy.
Yeah, and I mean I think those movies need to be marketed in that capacity as well.
You gotta event your movie these days as well. This did feel like kind of a small event. There were people talking about this movie. Yeah, it was good marketing.
I think about a month ago it had a pretty big Super Bowl ad spot. I think that's still a big important thing to do. You know, people don't usually watch TV, but when they are, you should probably run an ad if you have a movie coming out in a month.
Yeah.
I don't really know why that trend has died.
Especially, it's not like the Super Bowl ratings have decreased.
Yeah, it's one of the few things that stayed pretty consistent. Can't say the same about the Oscars.
Bad Bunny's halftime show is the most viewed halftime show of all time. Like, these big events aren't going anywhere anytime soon. So, yeah, and I get it. These trailers for these Super Bowl ads are getting more and more expensive, but that more people are watching, though. It might be worth it if you're like a Project Hail Mary.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think that there's been this like rumor about audiences and what they want, in that they're afraid of like original movies, or like they only want to watch something if it's connected to a franchise or an IP, is completely demystified by the fact that like people in our age range and our demographic will go see, I mean, maybe this is like 4 years ago, but we would go see like any A24 movie because that studio had brought us so many movies that were like culturally relevant in a short time frame. And I think, like, in a world where I'll probably go see almost any Warner Brothers movie because the last year they were on fire. You know, like, I think that there's a world where people get into the, like, the behind the scenes, or, like, the product that had been delivered not coming from an intellectual property, but from, like, a trusted, well-built and well-credited, like, I trust that this movie is going to be good.
Yeah.
And I think that that's, like, one of the biggest praises you can give to somebody like Ryan Coogler, or, you know, some of these like high tier blockbuster filmmakers, is like Ryan Coogler hasn't made a bad movie. No. He's made like 5 extremely successful mass appeal movies, and like I'm buying, if you haven't already, buy stock in that man, because the next movie he makes is gonna make, I mean, I think he's making a Black Panther 3, which is like, how are you even going to do that? Like, you barely were able to make a Black Panther 2. It's going to make a $1 jillion. It's going to make $1.2 billion. It'll overperform the next Avengers movie that's coming out.
And it will probably be one of the better MCU movies, too. Like, that's always the crazy thing, too, is... And that's, you know... And I'm also glad we're back to this director-driven projects after a bit of a decade of, you know, no disrespect to some of the filmmakers, but it did feel like we were on an assembly line for a little bit. And I don't want to blame the filmmakers. I'm sure they were restricted. I'm sure there was a hell of a lot of studio interference. Doctor Strange 3 or 2 or whatever it was, that was like a Sam Raimi movie for like 10 minutes. Like, there's no way he had the freedom like he has had for other movies. And
no,
I think we're getting away from that, thankfully.
I think the parts of that movie that he did make, though, like, I mean, they are far and away better than what else was coming out at that time. Like, even having his touch on it, like, the two scenes that stand out are when the giant kaiju thing's attacking the city and Doctor Strange actually has to be a superhero. That was cool. And then the part where they're in like the alternate timeline and there's the evil Doctor Strange, like that feels very much like a Bruce
Doctor
Campbell
Strange
fighting
was
himself.
great.
Yeah, that one. That's the one I was thinking of. And then there's also the scene where Scarlet Witch is killing the fucking future Federation force or whatever, like hodgepodge rip-off Avengers. Like, there's 3 scenes in that movie that are better than 90% of anything made post-Endgame MCU. So, like, I don't know. I have fonder feelings for that, but I hear what you're saying about the director feeling like its power in blockbusters has been suppressed, and now we're finally seeing the fruition of an auteur behind a blockbuster again. I think that's an extremely valid and really important thing to note. You know, I think that there's a ton of directors right now to buy stock in for their next picture. I'm excited for what else we have in store this year, even if there are still those like, oh, this is the 7th movie in a franchise. Like, okay, well, I didn't see the other 4. I saw the first 3 before it got bad.
Yeah. Do you think this movie is better or worse than The Martian?
I don't think it's as strong of a movie as The Martian, personally. I think
I like it a little better than The Martian.
I feel similarly, like, I think they both are at a 3.5 for me on Letterboxd. Martian might be at a 4. I
gave a Project a generous 4. I was gonna say.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to watch that movie and walk out of it and be upset. I think I would have preferred if this had a little bit more of like an ensemble thing. Even if there was just characters back on Earth, or like, you know, in another, like, if the flashback scenes were more focused on the whole mission and the team and not just him, I think I probably would have liked this movie more, because that's one of my favorite things about The Martian is Matt Damon's stuck there on Mars and it looks like he's suffering, and then it cuts to like Donald Glover who's creating a code to figure out how to get the thing back. There's a kinetic force on both ends, whereas this is just a flashback that isn't really all that substantial to the plot and just feels like exposition that keeps interrupting what we're watching, which is like a singular kinetic force trying to get their way out of the situation. And I would have preferred this to be a little bit bigger in scale in terms of the number of characters. I mean, this movie is a rare thing where it's like, yeah, you've got like Sandra Hüller there and the AT&T girls there, but they are so like underutilized in this movie compared to like what those actors are capable of, that you really are kind of just, this is a one-man show. And therefore, this movie's probably a whole lot cheaper than other blockbusters that are performing at this level. I mean, actors are usually the most expensive part of a film.
Yeah, that's very true. And it probably gave them more room to do that, you know, practical effects. And even when CGI used, it looks pretty damn good. I saw it in IMAX. I was like, screw it. If I'm going to see it, I'm going to see it on the biggest screen. And I had a pretty solid IMAX experience.
I mean, yeah, this movie wasn't cheaply made by any means. It cost around $250 million. Love to know where that money went. But I don't necessarily know if I would have preferred this in IMAX. The visuals were really good, so maybe it would have been worth it. Unfortunately, I didn't get tickets in time, and I didn't want to sit in the front row for 3 hours.
It had a similar experience for me than to Gravity, but I like this more than Gravity. Gravity felt a little bit too much like a theme park movie to me. Like, I just, like, I feel like I'm in space. This looks really cool, but man, I don't care what's going on. And this was like the opposite, where I'm like, I don't feel like I'm in space, but I'm really invested in this plot, and I want to see what happens to this character.
And at the end of the day, the real problem with Gravity, in my opinion, is that the dual leads in Sandra Bullock and George Clooney, neither one of them feel all that developed at all. Whereas you have
chemistry in that movie either.
Yeah, there's not much there in terms of chemistry, for sure, but yeah, I mean, those characters just aren't written to be anything more than, like, a person in peril. And I appreciate that this movie, you know, portrays Grace as, like, sympathetic and, you know, charming and the right guy for the job, even if the job is, like, a suicide mission.
Yeah. So you think Martian's a better movie, but this might tug on the probably heartstrings a little bit more, too. You might be You're probably cheering for Ryland Grace more than Matt Damon. It's because of all the time you spent with him.
Yeah, I think I prefer The Martian as a movie. Like, I think it's just, I don't know. I don't know if better executed is the word, but because it is a little bit more grounded in science fiction and it feels like a little more plausible, I think that I preferred it. But at the end of the day, like, I haven't rewatched that movie since it came out in 2016.
Yeah, I was thinking about rewatching The Martian after I saw Project Hail Mary. I'm like, I wonder if it's time. I watched it on a plane, actually. Really good plane movie.
Yeah, that is a good plane movie. And I feel like this would be too, honestly. I feel like there's a world where I would rewatch Project Hail Mary sooner than I would The Martian.
Yeah. I think this is a movie you could definitely show to your parents. Easy movie you could show nieces, nephews, sons, daughters, like for the whole family. It's very E.T. It's that type of Spielberg movie where you could just show it to anyone. And, if we get those, once or twice a year, I think that's really good for not only, me personally as a viewer, but for the industry as a whole.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And, this movie is a success because it is something partially original. I think this movie borrows a lot of elements from other science fiction movies. It feels similar. It feels familiar, but it is its own unique thing. And the way that it handles its story, its plot, and its so few characters, it is a unique experience, even if there are bits that feel derivative of things like Interstellar or The Martian or other big scale science fiction Gravity movies of the last decade or so. This movie's for everyone, and we're going into Easter week, and I'm sure this movie's going to stick around in the box office even with a Super Mario Galaxy out there too.
The year of space, it seems.
We gotta get off this damn planet.
With with Ryan Gosling starring in the space movie, not to bring it back to Star Wars, but does this itch you with a little more interest in Starfighter now that you've seen him tackle a major sci-fi as a leading man?
I saw him tackle a major sci-fi as a leading man in Blade Runner 2049. I don't think no matter what happens, he's treading on new ground there. And I try not to get too optimistic with Star Wars casting. I remember when the sequel trilogy was announced and I saw that Oscar Isaac was going to be there, and I was like, oh, shit, this is going to be a banger. And then we got, maybe 3 scenes in the whole trilogy of Poe Dameron actually being, a pilot and a badass, and then 2 whole movies of him essentially in, a chastity belt. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not really optimistic for the future of Star Wars, but I'm going to see that movie because it's Ryan Gosling in a movie.
Yeah.
I've already bought stock in him. My hopes for that would be that
that's what I meant. Do you think this helps Starfighter, a year from now because of the success of this?
For sure. If that movie actually comes out and is finished and gets released, I think that movie's going to do well because people are familiar with Ryan Gosling. People are familiar with Star Wars. And he just proved he can carry a movie on his back like this. My hopes for that performance, though, would be that it is maybe a throwback. Maybe he re-enters his drive and Blade Runner kind of stoic performance. If we get something like that cool out of him instead of bubbly, charismatic lead guy, I think it would be nice to see him mix it up with. This is a weird analogy, but I've been watching a lot of baseball since the season just started back up, and a really, really good pitcher has an incredible fastball, and I think he's giving his fastball here. But the best types of pitchers and the best types of actors are the ones that can give an entirely different pitch. And I think he's going to have to, I think the Star Wars one is a 3-2 full count. It's either going to be a miss or it's going to be a home run. And I think that, I think it would be fun to see him throw a knuckleball in that performance. I think it'd be fun if he does something we haven't seen or something that is a little out of tone with the rest of the film.
Yeah, and I believe it is a Sean Levy movie, so maybe there's positives and negatives with that, but it could, because of his, experience with Deadpool, and that might give Ryan Gosling a little more, bit of more, maybe a skeleton script might let him, be a little funnier or charismatic. It might be a little more creative than what we've seen in the very strict wooden dialogue sometimes in a Star Wars movie. It could be a good combination, or it could come off very cringe. It could really go either way to me.
Oh, that's terrifying. Oh, and this movie's going to be... Yeah, Mia Goth's there, Amy Adams,
probably
Matt
an alien.
Smith.
Paper, it's got a really solid cast. I like all those people, but, I just have no idea what the movie's about. And I'm not thrilled on the director. You know, I don't think it's going to be a 10 out of 10 movie by any means.
This is going to be an interesting one.
Yeah, it's not Lord and Miller directing Ryan Gosling, but you know, we'll see.
So you think Mia Goth's definitely playing an alien? Do you think Amy
I think
Adams
so.
is also playing an alien?
So the rumor is, and this be really tough if this is real. The rumor is Amy Adams is the mother to this kid that there's already confirmed a kid by the official photos.
Yeah. Flynn Gray, yeah.
Yeah, Gosling is like this pilot, and this kid is allegedly, force sensitive, and he's got to send him to Ray, and this is secretly a sequel trilogy movie with that much of a connection. But that's been the rumored thing, but then everybody actually in it, the Sean Levy, Ryan Gosling, keeps saying it's not, it is not connected to anything. This is our own thing. And you really don't know who to believe when it comes to that. I mean, J.J. Abrams and his whole marketing for Star Trek said Khan wasn't in Star Trek 2. So, I mean, you can't trust these people. Who actually knows?
Is Matt Smith playing Thrawn?
That's what I wanted for Rise of Skywalker back in the day. I'd be down. But there already is a live-action Thrawn in the Ahsoka show. They went with Mads Mikkelsen's brother, who voiced him in Rebels.
Cool.
And he's great.
Cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know that the Ahsoka show got that deep.
Yeah,
I can't keep up with Star Wars, man.
Yeah, it's yeah, and I think that's why I think Starfighter does need to just focus on, hey, this is a Ryan Gosling Star Wars movie. You should just see it for that, much like Project Hail Mary was. Here's this cool sci-fi movie from the Martian author starring Ryan Gosling. You should check it out. I think that should be the focus, is something similar to this.
So I think one thing that we should be cautious about, I mean, that Disney should be cautious about, I guess not us, since we're just the consumer, but I mean, we haven't gotten a Star Wars movie since episode 9, kind of shit its pants. And then in 5 weeks, we got
Mando.
Mandalorian and Grogu, the movie.
Yep. Yeah.
And then immediately next year, we're getting this movie. I mean, it looks like it's almost wrapped production if it hasn't already. Yeah. So,
allegedly, Tom Cruise directed the action scenes.
Yeah.
Apparently, he rolled up off a helicopter and directed a lightsaber fight. And I'm like, so there's a lightsaber fight? But once again, you don't know if they're trolling. Who knows?
Cool. Well, I hope that audiences are ready for 2 Star Wars movies in 2 years.
It sounds like they're having fun. Unlike the cast of Rise of Skywalker, who looked like they were just done by the time we got to that movie. So at least it's more positive vibes.
That's fair.
And Mando, it's going to be a TV movie, whatever.
Yeah,
I'm still not
rough.
I still haven't felt the itch yet. I keep forgetting it's even coming out, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll do an episode on it, but at what cost? At what cost?
I mean, I hope I'm wrong. I hope it's like season 1. I have a good time. Who knows? It seems like it's Glup Shido, the movie. I keep seeing these random characters that only I'm going to know, and I might just have fun pointing at that.
Yeah. I got a question for you.
Yeah.
What do you want to see Ryan Gosling do next? I mean, I guess after Starfighter, and then what do you want to see Lord and Miller do next? Because I think that we have 2 kind of entities here, the director pair and Ryan Gosling, that I think that their star powers have been leveled up by this movie, and I'm curious if there's anything that you would want to see out of them next.
I'd like Ryan Gosling to do some kind of action, because now he's going to be in his late 40s by then, and 50s. You only really have until, I feel like once you hit 60 as an actor, you become you're the drama actor now. You're not really doing action unless you're Harrison Ford. But outside of that, I'd like Ryan Gosling to do something like that. Something like The Mummy, or Indiana Jones. How about a cool adventure type movie? Fuck it. Have him team up with Margot Robbie in the Pirates of the Caribbean movie. Let's just run it back with both of them. People would see it. It would make $1 billion.
Yeah, it would make a lot of money.
In my capitalist mind, that would be the most money-making thing. But I'd like to see him do another entertaining action movie. He's got time to do dramas in his 60s, and then he'll be great.
Yeah, that's a good one. I want to see him have another movie where he leans into it. He's a very multi-talented artist, and he had a band like 10, 15 years ago called
Yeah.
Dead Man's Bones. I think it'd be really cool to see him do some sort of like period musical, maybe something set in like the 70s
Yeah.
or 80s, like
That could be cool.
almost like
Team up with Damien Chazelle again?
sure.
Do a period
I mean,
piece?
is Damien Chazelle out of director's jail from?
I was about to say, is he gonna be able to direct another movie?
I mean, honestly, I might be hopping on Babylon Island. I
Dude,
still think there's
it's-
movies that are similar but better, but that movie's
I've
not
seen a
bad.
lot of posts recently. I see this one post that keeps going around where it was praising Babylon, and they were like, the movie that just wanted to celebrate film culture, and the culture rejected it. I'm like, wow, that's deep for Babylon, for a movie with elephant shit.
Yeah,
But
it is a good movie.
it is.
I think that movie's gonna age
for-
really well.
Just like Lord and Miller, I don't think Damien Chazelle is missed. His worst movie's First Man, and that's a fine biopic. There's nothing
Shout out
wrong with
Ryan
that
Gosling.
movie. Yeah.
That's one that people don't talk about very often.
What would I want Lord and Miller to do next? You know, this would be a weird one, and I just talked about how I don't want them to go back to IP. But if they really want to, if this Batman Brave and the Bold is real, and they want to embrace silly Batman, they're the perfect guys to do it. They really are. Like
That'd
how
be
they
cool.
handled Batman in the Lego movie, they could absolutely do that in live action.
Yeah, that'd be pretty neat. I was thinking of Mikhail's post about that guy from The Long Walk. That was like, you're DCU's next Batman if they weren't fucking crazy or something.
It was the guy from F1.
Yeah. The F1 guy. I'm sorry, I mixed
Which,
them
like,
up.
I like that actor, but I shout out Mikhail.
What an odd take, but yeah, go off. I think it'd be cool to see Lord and Miller. You know, I feel like their strength is definitely in taking a IP and kind of wringing it of the things that you actually want to see with that IP, but then also
Yeah.
have like the self-awareness to like poke holes into itself. And I think that's really cool. This might be a really wild take. I would love to see them reboot like the Peter Sellers Pink Panther movies. I know we had the Steve
That would be
Martin ones
lit.
in like the early 2000s, and those are not great in my opinion.
I like those movies. I'm a big Pink Panther guy in general. One of my favorite cartoon characters. Like, you know how we all have a cartoon character that we kind of stan? Pink Panther's my guy. He's cool
That's
as shit. Like a detective. Like, I have a Nike shirt that has like the Pink Panther in it. Like, it's one of my favorite shirts right now. I don't know why. I just like his vibe. He's cool.
I feel like my cartoon character is either the camel from the Camel cigarettes box.
Nice. Nice.
Actually, I'm just kidding. It's definitely Tom from Tom and Jerry, but I had to throw out a shout out to the camel. But yeah, no, I don't know who they would get to play that lead detective kind of guy. If Ryan Gosling's down, you know who's versatile enough?
Could be Ryan Gosling. It really
That could be really fun.
Put a funny mustache on that man, and he could do wonders in that movie.
Yeah. I think that would be really cool. It could be a little bit meta, but really get to the heart of a really fun, over-the-top comedy mystery. And honestly, like, just scaling back a little bit. You know, keep that stock alive. You don't need to make another $250 million movie. You don't need to underpay your animators on the next Spider-Verse movie again.
That's that's my fear is I just said the Batman thing, but truly I don't think they should all of a sudden do, that was the Damien Chazelle problem, is he just went higher and higher, and eventually you're gonna burst, you're gonna reach your ceiling.
Yeah, and also it's just one of those things where like a movie doesn't need to cost $300 million.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
You know, what was The Nice Guys made for? I bet you that was like 80 million tops.
Yeah.
And that's a great film.
You think with Ryan Gosling's power right now, we could finally get a Nice Guys 2? Like, if he just wanted to do it, they'll just do it. Like, Netflix will be like, all right, fuck it, we'll do a second one.
You know, I feel like there's this yin and yang there where like Ryan Gosling's stock is so high where if he wanted to do that, Netflix would produce it, and then
kind of like a Once Upon a Time situation.
Yeah, exactly. And then
yeah.
You know, we would get that. But on the flip side of that coin, stock on Russell Crowe is like this would have to like save Russell Crowe's career.
It'd be like John Travolta in Pulp Fiction.
Which the last one kind of saved his career.
Yeah.
So this would be like if after Battlefield Earth, Quentin Tarantino was like, I want John Travolta to be the villain of Death Proof.
This is Shaq signing with the Celtics in 2011 and going for one more run at the title.
I mean, I think that Russell Crowe could do it. I don't know if he would want to. I feel like that would be a lot of work for him. Like, I feel like he would not want to. I feel like he likes the movies where he can sit down and ride around on a Vespa and, like...
You know, not to, like, talk about another podcast, but the Rewatchables just did The Nice Guys, and the one guy who's around our age, Craig, had a take that The Nice Guys was Russell Crowe, not only his best performance of the last, like, 20, not 20 years, but 15 years, which maybe, but his best one ever. There's a case for it. And I'm like, yeah, if you're like 20-some years old, that is Russell Crowe's best movie, like, around your demographic. If you've never seen Gladiator, if you've never seen, the movies that made him a, like, standalone name, even if you saw Gladiator, I mean, he's better in The Nice Guys. Like, he has more to do.
Yeah, I mean, Gladiator, he has a lot going on there, and
he's badass in Gladiator, but from an acting perspective, it's The Nice Guys.
And then there's also, like, Cinderella Man, I would say, is probably a better performance than Gladiator. I mean, A Beautiful Mind has aged very oddly, but that's another one.
We never did our Oscars video. I watched A Beautiful Mind, though. I never knew about that movie. So for like the first 20 minutes, I am like being really cynical, and I'm like, this won Best Picture. I'm like, what am I watching? And then the twist happened. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, his drunk friend Paul Bettany was never there. Yeah, that movie's odd. I mean, it's Ron Howard, and we talked about it in our Grinch episode. Ron Howard is one of the most, like, this movie's made by Ron Howard directors ever. Like, it's not that he's bad, it's that he's rarely great. He's usually just fair.
Project Hail Mary would have been really weird if Ron Howard also took their job and finished this movie.
This movie would be a 2-star film if it got like the final touching kiss of death of fucking Ron Howard, of Bryce Dallas
EDH
Howard's
would have played the government woman that recruited him. But with some time left though, Nate, I did want to bring up, because it was the highest viewed thing ever. You have any thoughts on both Dune 3 and Spider-Man, the two big trailers that came out during our little break?
Yeah, so Dune, I love the franchise. I've got a poster hanging right here. And did it show a ton of what that movie's going to be? No. Was it
Do you think
cool?
Chalamet personally told them to drop it the day after he lost the Oscar?
Yeah, 1,000%. I think that if he won, they would have dropped it that night.
Yeah, that's true too. It's a win-win for him.
Yeah, but I think, he's on his heel turn. Not to spoil Dune 3.
I wish it was called Dune Messiah. I wish they just embraced it.
I think it's probably best that they don't call it that.
It will make more money with it being called Dune 3, because I think that they're so nervous about these movies making money, and they want people to be invested in Dune like they are with other franchises. So I do get it. You want to make it seem like it's a trilogy, even though Messiah is it's so distant from the original Dune book. I feel like calling it a connected trilogy just feels so weird to me.
Well, it took them 2 movies to get through the first book, and it sounds like this third movie is going to take elements that they didn't touch on in the first book, and elements of Dune Messiah.
And they keep calling it the conclusion as well, so they're not even sequel baiting us this time.
Yeah, no, I think they're doing the 3 and done, and I think that's the smart thing to do. I don't know what the hell the viewership was on that Dune television show that came out.
I was about to say, the show I assume didn't really work out, where they're like, okay, this is a strictly cinematic universe.
And that's probably for the best that they keep it that way, and I think one more Dune movie to nail it. I think there's enough stuff at the end of Dune 2 that they set up and leave hanging that it's worth. I love that we got to see Duncan Idaho again.
Yeah. And isn't in the future books, Duncan Idaho always finds a way to come back too, whether it's a clone or something. Like, that's a recurring character, I think, in the sequel books, if I remember. I watched the video on the future books.
Almost every single Dune book.
That's so funny.
He reinvents himself. He gets cloned.
That's their Roman Reigns.
Yeah, he just comes back. It's fun. It's fun. Yeah, no, I think that Dune 3 is necessary. The new Spider-Man movie, I have a lot of thoughts on.
Mhm.
Maybe you take it away if you have more thoughts on Dune 3.
When it comes to Dune 3, really the same thoughts. It's more of the same in a good way. They have a new cinematographer, which I believe also did the cinematography for Project Hail Mary, unless I'm getting the names mixed up.
I think that
I know he did La La Land.
because Greg Fraser did Project Hail Mary, right?
Yeah.
And I think
Don't.
Greg Fraser did Dune 1 and 2, so I don't think he's doing the next
So
one.
he's dipping. Yeah,
Yeah.
because he's dipping for the Beatles movies. Great.
Yeah, well,
At least they'll look good. But Dune 3, I believe it's somebody really good, though. And that's what I was really paying attention to in this trailer, because I knew they had a new DP. And I think it still looks really solid. And I'm excited to see what Chalamet, does as this different version of Paul Atreides. Slight spoilers, but this is essentially Revenge of the Sith here. This is a different side of the Paul character, and I'm looking forward to see how Denis gonna handle that as a director as well. The shift, I'm really curious, because a lot of people are already saying like, oh, it's the Return of the King. It's gonna be this big epic thing that'll sweep at the Oscars, but I'm like, that's not what Dune Messiah is, though. Like,
no.
And of course. Of course, Denis been pretty faithful as well. So I'm very curious from a story standpoint what they're actually going to do.
I think it's gonna speak volumes to the stupidity of the Middle Eastern conflict we are currently in, and I don't think the movie's gonna be as popular as the first two. Big hot take here. I think the movie being all about hubris is probably not going to sit well with mostly an American audience.
Do you think it benefits or takes away from it that it looks like this Doomsday is going to actually happen with Avengers and Dune dropping the same day?
If that holds true, I think people are going to be very, very disappointed that Dune loses money. And I don't think that's really a fair thing. I also don't think it's going to hold. I don't think that happens.
I know RDJ's coined it, and him and Chalamet have already been public about it, trying to do a Barbenheimer thing, but I don't know. I think Warner's gonna get way too nervous about it. Especially Warner right now needs to keep making hits, needs to keep showing people how cool they are.
Yeah, and Oppenheimer was PG-13, right? Or was it R?
It was R. Yeah. And that's two completely different audiences. These are both science fiction movies.
These are
the
both
MCU is science fiction.
3-hour-long science fiction films.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna sit there and watch both of those movies in one day. You're insane.
No, I didn't do that for Barbenheimer.
I did, but that's because I went to a Barbie brunch.
Yeah. And it's, that's a, 2-hour movie and a 3-hour movie as well. You subtract an hour as well. Yeah.
Back to your point though, Linus Sandgreen, who you're right, is Damien Chazelle's cinematographer. He also has done the last 2 Emerald Fennell movies, is going to be the cinematographer of this. So yeah, Dune 3 is probably going to look really pretty. It's not Greg Fraser, but, I think if this one has a slightly different look than the last 2, with still, And
I think it needs it.
Denis Villeneuve's, vision, I think that's probably fine. I mean, it's sand. Shoot it a slightly different way.
We're going back to Jakku.
Yeah.
But yeah, what were your thoughts on Spider-Man? We're finally getting a 4th Spider-Man movie. I feel like the 4th movie in a Spider-Man IP is always cursed. It's never happened, actually.
Yeah. I don't know what the temperature read is on Tom Holland's Spider-Man. Anytime I hop online to any sort of discourse surrounding Tom Holland, he's usually just getting...
feels like it depends on the day.
It comes off like he's just getting dunked on. He's getting bullied by everybody. People are saying that Zendaya's too good for him and that he's kind of washed. And I don't really necessarily care about Tom Holland as the actor. I haven't really necessarily thought that
dude's ripped. For talking about the Zendaya stuff, it looks like a pro wrestler in this movie.
I just don't know what the investment here is, why I should give this one a shot as opposed to the other 3 I didn't really care for. I mean, Homecoming was interesting when it came out, but it didn't really stick with me. And then Far From Home was bad. You did a very good job explaining that multiple times on record why that one's bad. And then what the hell are we getting? The third one is kind of just a hodgepodge fanfare. No Way Home is fun. I like that it has the scenes for Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man to kind of get some, redemption, because his movies were unfairly just thrown together and forgotten about.
No Way Home really was the theme park movie that Scorsese talks about. I will fully admit, I had a great time. Like, it was really cool seeing Willem Dafoe, Sandman. Like, I grew up watching Spider-Man cartoons. It was really cool to see all those characters on a big screen. It's not very rewatchable, and it hasn't, as a movie, there's not a lot going on. But
it's the movie that Disney Marvel needed at that time too. Like,
yes,
they just had the misstep of like Eternals or whatever, and Shang-Chi.
I think that's why we were all really positive about it, because at the time we were still in the pandemic, but this was the first communal movie, really, that we all saw and talked about, and I think that's why, too, it was a very positive experience for all of us.
So that's my context with those three films. I don't particularly care for any of those three at all, and the pitch that we were given after that, and what the ending of that movie kind of sets up, is Spider-Man has to kind of reset himself. The Tom Holland main MCU Spider-Man is going through a reset now that his aunt's dead, unfortunately, and
very unfortunate. His
two best friends / love interests don't know who he is anymore. But then half the trailer's dedicated to them and him stalking them.
Seems he enrolled in the same college as them, even though the ending of No Way Home made it feel like he was going to stay away from them.
Which I would have preferred. Like, I don't mind seeing Zendaya and the CEO of Sex in the movie again. Like, I like those actors, but I
really like the three of them. My biggest thing about that whole trilogy was, like, I do really like them as a trio. Like, they are one of the few MCU movies since the Iron Man movies with a really good supporting cast.
Yeah, and I feel like what we were supposed to get after this was just a Spider-Man movie that wasn't connected to the MCU and connected to all these things, but then it's like, okay, well, we've got Punisher, who's getting censored by a Spidey web. Thankfully, they remembered that they cast Nacho Varga as Scorpion 3 movies ago, so he's finally showing up again.
He's kind of the last big villain that hasn't been on screen yet.
Yeah,
I guess properly. We've had Kraven and Rhino. I'd like to see him, differently, in a different form, please.
I really hate if they brought Aaron Taylor Johnson to play Kraven, if he was a villain in the movie and not some weird anti-hero like they did with Venom in those same universe. Yeah. But yeah, no, I don't, there's not anything here for me. They also are introducing the Hand, and that seems to be the main villain, so Spider-Man's going to be fighting a bunch of ninjas.
And apparently Sadie Sink is in this movie and playing Jean Grey, which is wild.
Great casting.
That's cool.
Sadie Sink is Jean Grey, but to me it feels like they set themselves up to finally give us a MCU tier Spider-Man movie that is not reliant on Iron Man, that isn't reliant on Nick Fury, that isn't reliant on legacy Spider-Man coming back, and instead what we're getting is Spider-Man's gonna introduce us to Phase 6? Is that what this is?
Yeah, that's what this feels like. If Jean Grey is actually in this movie, this is the introduction to the MCU X-Men, in a way.
Well, except, wait, does this come out before Doomsday or after?
It is now before. It used to be after. So I don't know if that actually had any weight on it. I don't think, so I believe Spider-Man is not in Doomsday. I believe they have already said that, but he is in Secret Wars. So I assume, my theory is, he is not in Doomsday, and the end credits of this movie is that something happens where he visually sees Doctor Doom, and it's Tony Stark's face, and he's like, what the fuck? And then that's how he gets into Secret Wars, trying to, confuse why Tony Stark's here. So
okay, and then does Tom Hardy Venom get to show up, please?
I think Venom died. In Venom 3, I think the symbiote died, right? But no one's ever really gone in the MCU. I don't know. The Jean Grey just really throws a wrench into this, where I'm like, well, where does that connect in all of this?
What if his friends enlisted in the Charles Xavier School for Mutants or whatever?
They're all in the mansion, actually.
The CEO of Sex has some weird power that we didn't know about.
Yeah,
remember when everyone said he was going to be Hobgoblin?
I was about to say, is Ned ever going to become Hobgoblin? Are we actually going to have that?
The actor lost weight and started bulking up, and everyone's like, he's getting ready to play Hobgoblin. I'm like, is he? I think he's just I don't know, fucking bulking up. Like, he looks good. Let him cook.
I loved in that one Jack Quaid movie, he literally played the CEO of Sex in that.
He was just the guy in the chair again.
He is.
In Novocaine.
Yeah, I believe it's the director of the is it the Shang-Chi movie? I believe it's that director. Yeah, instead of Kang Dynasty, they attached him to the Spider-Man movie. Because I think that's what he was going to initially direct before the Russos, before the Russos pulled a Hulk Hogan and said, that doesn't work for me, brother, and came in and took the movies. And so the action, I think, will be really good. It'll be top-notch action. He is a talented dude when it comes to that. And, that's half of it. That's half of what I want from a Spider-Man movie. Also, the web swinging. Can we actually get some good fucking web swinging in this franchise? We are now 3 movies in, and we have not had a great web swing sequence. You're fucking Spider-Man. Like, the Raimi movies were awesome. They were shot practical. And then you get over to The Amazing Spider-Man. It is still the best web swinging we've ever had in both those movies. And then Homecoming comes around, and there's so I hope at the very least we just get better sequences. Yeah, the story, it just feels like it's all over the place. But we'll see. Far From Home was so bad for me. I did not think No Way Home could work. And at the time it did work. Oh, and people want to see it. It is the highest viewed trailer within 24 hours. It beat Deadpool and Wolverine by like 400 million. Like, it's going to now sit at first place forever. There's a connection to these characters. I think there's a lot of people that, like us, were in high school when these characters were in high school, and I think they feel like they're growing up with these characters in a way. I think there is a connection there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm relatively open to it, I suppose. Like, I don't know if I wasn't doing a movie podcast that I would go see it, but I mean, yeah, the cultural footprint is that Spider-Man still makes money. I mean, that's what it all comes down to. I mean, whenever they can, underpay enough animators to make the next Spider-Verse movie, that's going to be huge as well.
Yeah.
Like, I don't see a world where, like, the value of Spider-Man is completely tanked yet. I mean, Sony made, like, 5 movies about villains of the Spider-Man movies, and they all sucked, and people still went and saw them. Oh, they made 6. I'm sorry, I forgot about Morbid Time. It's one of those things where I don't understand the narrative reason to have, and I guess this is the problem with the MCU in general. Why have the narrative reset if we're just going to get a bunch of scenes of him stalking his old friend? And why declare that you're going to have a scaled back, like, actual Spider-Man movie, and then you're going to introduce a giant ninja faction and the X-Men through Spider-Man?
And it doesn't feel like a Guardian situation where Star-Lord, figures out how to move on. I think Peter finds a way to get MJ's memory back. Like, I think we are going that route. I don't think Peter's going to learn how to move on. I think they just, because of the popularity of these actors too, I don't think they want them to break up.
Shout out to Academy Award winner Emma Stone for being the only person who's given us, like, actual, like, Gwen Stacy.
And the chemistry those two have in those movies is untouchable.
He really should have just made, like, 5 of the Andrew Garfield Spider-Men, and then eventually merged him into the... whatever. It's fine. That second one is rough. I get why they did it.
They had their chance after No Way Home. They could have said, fuck it, we're doing Amazing Spider-Man 3, like, we're Sony. We could do whatever we want. But no, they did Kraven. Like, come on.
And Madam Web.
Yeah, like, it was right there when the popularity was at its height. But yeah, just wanted to touch on those. They were the big movie news everybody was talking about. We're in for an interesting summer. I mean, it seems like people actually are excited for the summer, unlike, the past 2 years, I feel like. Not since Barbenheimer, I feel like we haven't had this much, people talked about movie trailers, this week, which is, that's hopeful.
Yeah, and I mean, last year, I feel like the summer box office kicked off a little early. I mean, Sinners did really, really well, and it came out Easter weekend. This year, Project Hail Mary overperformed, and people are at the movies again. So, as long as people keep making projects that people want to go see, like, all in all, it's exciting that it doesn't feel like movie season is getting kicked off by, like, a tentpole MCU film. It sounds like people are already there, and they definitely will be next week with Super Mario Galaxy, and we're finally getting another. I mean, I guess GOAT did pretty well. Good job, Steph Curry.
Yeah, shout out Steph. But did it do better than LeBron's Space Jam?
I
Did
think it
Curry
did.
beat him in the box office as well?
I think-
That's really funny. That's really fucking funny, actually. That's, but Nate, I know we will probably be covering Super Mario. But Nate, it is your turn in our little movie club. What movie should I watch next?
I want you to watch the movie Under the Silver Lake. It was just
Sick.
announced that David Robert Mitchell has a new movie coming out, I believe, early next year. That trailer just dropped. It didn't do nearly as well as the Spider-Man movie, but yeah, I figured it'd be fun to see an Andrew Garfield joint and circle back on that next week.
Ironically, was just thinking about that movie the other day, and I was like, that's an Andrew Garfield movie that fell off the radar for me. Not for any reason, but yeah, sweet.
We watched
excited to
It
check that out.
Follows, I think, for Missing Link. Did you ever get around?
Yeah.
Is this going to be your first time seeing Under the Silver Lake?
Yeah, first time.
Hell
I'm very
yeah.
familiar with it, but never actually sat and watched it. So,
Great.
this is a good pick. I'm excited to talk about that. Oh my god, if we pair this with Super Mario.
Under the Silver Galaxy.
That is a Jory episode, I think. But shout out to all you guys watching. Let us know in the comments what movies you want us to talk about. We're playing a big summer. I don't want to announce it just yet, but it's gonna be a lot of fun this summer. We got some fun ideas in our brains. Yeah, thank you for joining me.
Should I make the
again.
announcement that we're watching every Tyler Perry movie?
Yeah, actually, on the Shock Wrestling side, I was going to text you about this. May 4th's coming up. Would you like to be back in the booth for our Star Wars wrestling special?
Count me in. You'll see me
Absolutely.
over on the Shockwave Wrestling. I'll be there.
Hell yeah. Pop Lou and Ace back in the booth on May 4th. Sweet. Yeah, big things happening this summer. And we'll see you guys soon. This has been At the Movies with Ace and Martin. No outro.
You guys don't need one.
Who needs an outro?